Yeah.
Okay, you are on the air.
We call the meeting to order. This meeting is to go over the special meeting to go over the ambulance quotes. Guess I'll turn it over to the chief. Jack, you got anything to add before I turn it over to the chief?
No, other than the fact that, the chief, certainly has given me copies of what you have. And he and I have chatted about this many times over, but it's really a subject that he knows a lot more about than I do. So I think turning it over to the chief is
Okay.
the right way to go.
There is, thank you. There is 5 different quotes there, 2 from PL, 2 from Horton. The difference being, one of PL's is a 2-wheel drive, the second one is a 4-wheel drive. And on the Horton one, they're both 4-wheel drives. The chassis, one of them is a 2014, the other is a 2016. And then Bulldog, I don't have the total printout of the specs. I thought I had them, but all I got is the letter I downloaded the other day.
I brought them, chief. We got them on the.
All right.
I'll just pass them around.
Yeah, so, but they're all pretty much the same. They're all on Ford F-450s. The boxes are all pretty much been designed by us as far as what we want. The big difference here, and I'll give you the fast track, is on the PL, they're looking at 265 working days to complete, which if you figure it out, that's 53 weeks, okay? The 2-wheel drive comes in at 185,942, but if you take out the trade-in, he suggested just the estimate of 3,500 for a trade-in. The Ford concession is 3,000. You're down to 179,442. On their 4-wheel drive, it's a 2016. It starts at 188,000. If you take the concessions off, that leaves it at 182. Horton did a 2014 4x4. Theirs is 240 working days, which is 48 weeks. Their 2014 Ford, with this, they gave us $7,000 concessions with the Ford and the trade-in. They're still at 179,935, and their 2016 is 193,000. The Bulldog, if you look at the letter, he didn't really have the Ford concession because he needs the numbers. And as far as the trade-in, all he said was that he'd probably give it to one of the local schools that need it. He didn't give any dollar figure. So I kind of used what the other ones had used, figured it would be about the same. Used 6,500. His 2015 4x4 was 183,900. Minus the 65 is 177,400, and his build time is the end of May, 1st of June. It's basically on the line, ready to go. All we need to do is just, it's built pretty much to our specs because everybody in building them the same. And he is the cheapest. I don't know a lot about Bulldog. I think Jack said he dealt with them on something else, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Ford chassis. I mean, they're all bidding on the same chassis. So. Brian originally had said, and actually the last budget meeting, actually, I think Velma made the point of leaning more towards diesel. I talked to Brian a little bit, and I actually talked to Brian quite a bit. And his thing is with the diesel, where Arundel has a tradition of keeping their ambulances or whatever for quite a few years, that they're concerned with the gas going more than 4 or 5 years before you'd have to put something else in it, where a diesel would stay right with it, which I agree. And I was actually looking at, originally was thinking diesel anyways, but Todd was a little concerned with money at the time, and the gas is cheaper. But I think Randall will back me on this, that even the vendors have said that gas jobs, you're probably looking at 5 years, and then you're gonna have to repower it. And I don't know if we really want to get into that. I think diesel's the way to go.
So let's just backtrack a little bit.
Yeah,
here,
sure,
just
go ahead,
I can
Dan,
get
so I
my
just
hands
grabbed a
around
whole bunch of
this.
stuff at you.
So I'm looking at the two Hortons.
Yep,
Okay, so you're saying one is a two-wheel drive, one is a four-wheel drive?
no, Fortins, both are 4x4s.
Okay, so what's the difference between the two?
One's a 2014, the other one's a 2016.
This is 2015 here, so.
Well, if you look, it says 2015, but if you look at the actual bid, you'll see where it's a 2014 chassis, I believe.
All right.
That would be the cheaper of the two. That's how
And
I was able to tell them apart.
I looked at just the back line, the bottom figure. I had 200,300,
Yeah, that's the 2016
Yeah.
4x4.
and then the other one is 186,935.
Yep, that's the 2014 4x4. Correct.
So the difference between the two basically is just the year, are these things relatively identical?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same as far as the specs go down.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, and then the PL, one of these is a four-wheel drive, the other one's a two-wheel drive.
Right, the two-wheel drive is the cheaper of the two.
The 185,
Yeah, that's two-wheel drive.
okay, the one's a four-wheel drive.
Yeah, and then the same year, 2016, and that's the only difference between those. They're pretty much spec the same all the way.
Okay, and
Except one's gas, right?
No, they're
No.
both diesel.
One's diesel.
Yeah, they're all diesel.
everything here is all diesel.
Everything is diesel. It's all on a Ford 450.
Okay. So the Bulldog, Jason, what is, that's a 15, a demo?
2005, actually, it's still on the line.
It's a brand new.
It's brand
It
new.
was being built as a demo, right? And this is a four-wheel drive,
Yes, it is. Yeah.
diesel?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually called the salesman today just to make sure that it wasn't a fact.
I have that spec here.
Okay. Well, when I asked him today about the spec, because I couldn't find the spec originally, he said it was based on what we were looking for when he had been, actually, Jack was here one day when he was here, so. What? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it has the gear compartment we wanted, it has everything that it's, I didn't have it to compare apples to apples, but I'm pretty sure you'll find that the boxes on these are all pretty close to the same. It's what we were looking for, so.
So what is the recommendation from the chief?
You know, the one we have is old. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I haven't been given any inclinations from Brian that Tom McGann is gonna die next week, but I haven't been given that it won't either. I mean, we know, Randall just told me the other day, we got a problem with the lights in it. It's up in the ceiling, there's a lot of wiring.
So we get you on a new ambulance. We got some here. So what is your recommendation of these ambulances, which one you would like to get?
You know, I've always been with the PL, but I'll tell you, I'd like to, I think Bulldog's the way to go. I mean, it's cheaper, we can get it in a couple of months, and then we're not gonna run into a whole bunch of money into the one we have.
Just a clarification on why we're doing this tonight, there's just, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong too, or Chief, either one of you, because I know you both looked into this, but there's a little bit of urgency if we choose to go with Bulldog.
Right.
And the urgency is, we've got till tomorrow to let them know. And actually, they postponed it, waiting for this meeting for us. The reason, and that sounds like salesman pressure, but keep in mind that it's already on the assembly line, and where the other ones have, you know, such a 200 and some odd days waiting period, this one will have in a couple, you know, in a month or 6 weeks. That's the urgency. That's the only urgency. However, it just so happens that the Bulldog was one that people were interested in, and other piece that it's the cheapest. So it kind of falls into place, more or less, at least in my mind, and I think the chief's mind as well.
You know, I'd like to say that, you know, we could ride it out for 6 or 8 months, but the bottom line is I could be coming back in 3 months and we have to go buy something now, and then you're stuck paying with whatever's there. And that's, right now, we've got a chance to. So like I said, I'm not familiar with the Bulldog as far as, you know, myself personally. I've never heard anything bad about him. I believe it's town of Old Orchard is running a Bulldog. They just bought one recently. I mean, they've been in the ambulance business for a long while. The other thing is the sales guy is, I know where he lives. So I mean, that's not a reason to buy one.
So have you reviewed the specs of a Bulldog?
I have a copy of them somewhere, I called the vendor tonight to make sure that they were the original specs that we had put out as a general thing, with the compartment for gear and stuff like that, so. But I can't say I've looked at them in the last 2 or 3 days, but.
So who beside Jason from the fire department has looked at the Bulldog spec?
But I'm pretty sure that I had originally, back when we were talking, I think. I don't know, to tell you the truth. So, I can't say for sure
So,
that I have.
But there's a set of specs out there that these companies have responded to.
That's the beauty of a spec, when it goes out.
Yeah. So they responded to those specs, and if we don't get that, then we've
Yeah.
got issues.
but, you know, do we know for sure that everybody has met the specs that we put out?
Well, when we get it, if it doesn't, we'll send it back.
You know, usually what happens, and like I said, I haven't dealt with Bulldog before, but any vendor I've ever dealt with before is they come in with the spec, okay? And it has a place where, usually usually the board might say that the town manager has to sign for it, or the chairman of the board, but usually they'll authorize the fire chief to get out through and check the spec, and I have to initial everything to make sure it's exactly what we want. So, there's no way that, if I get out through and there's something in there that we didn't want, or it's not something we wanted, it's not there, then I just won't sign it. That's pretty standard with anything, not just an ambulance, it's pretty standard with a fire truck or anything.
So you're gonna go down through the specs Jason has right here, make sure it matches what we put out as an RFP, or however we
Yeah,
solicit.
absolutely. Yeah.
But you have, right, you have it.
I'm pretty sure I must have it on, I'm pretty sure I have the original specs in it, so if I don't, I'm sure that I can get one, so. Jason's, I'm sure Justin's got one.
Yeah. That's where I got it, he just sent it to me.
Well, he has a one, somebody's got it.
So, what, if we decide to go, doesn't this have to go to, does it have to go to the voters, or,
No.
because it's,
We've set up a reserve for.
right, capital reserve,
For this piece of equipment.
yeah. And how much we get in there now, Jack, you know?
Yeah, I gave it to you. We got
195,000.
195,000, and the 50 from last year has not been put in the account as of yet. Will be put, they tell me you guys usually put it in the last week in June. So that'll still leave you with
Okay.
70-some thousand. Because down the road, not too long, one of the deals about buying the ambulance, we're also looking to upgrade our life tech for monitors, or zapping people, stuff like that, because the new one's out. And right now, I got somebody looking into, because I got an email from Scarborough, there's a bunch of departments gonna go out and price them out together, which hopefully will save us some money that way. So I wanted to make sure there'd be enough money in to do both. And I'd have to, it would be something I'd have to come back and get to the board, say.
So, any comments on the board, questions?
What do you think, Jason?
I mean, personally, I think we would have to add $10,000 to these quotes just in the longevity of the bill, because we're gonna end up putting at least $10,000 into that ambulance in the next fiscal year,
For.
which to me would be stupid money spent.
The one we have now.
I mean, best guess, I think it's gonna need a new alternator, because it's having the same issues we're having
It's
now.
time to have alternator issues again. I've got some individual items that they can't be fixed, they can't get parts for them, so they have to be changed. And
That's the other problem we're running into, is whether we can get parts or not.
I think the last
Well,
alternator we
bottom
put in
line-
it was like $12,000.
No, it was like, I think the last alternator was like 1,400. The big bill on that was when the AC went bad in it.
It's 14 years old.
Yeah.
No matter how you cut it, it's a 14-year-old vehicle, so you don't have to, I mean, it's a crapshoot from now on, and just like any other, 14-year-old vehicle, and it could last as we said, and it could not. I think putting a lot of money into it is not a good investment. I agree, Jason, with what you said.
I mean, if the town mechanic or the vendor come back and said that to fix it to what we need to be, it's gonna cost $10,000 more, I'd be probably looking at the board not to spend it and to go out and see what's out there.
Right.
You know, I mean, I just think that's foolish to spend $10,000 on something. I agree with Jason. I mean, we don't wanna spend a lot of money anymore.
Well, I mean, we had that count, we specifically put money in order to do this. You know, we've got the, to me, if everybody from the fire department is on board that this is the one to go for, it's obviously the cheapest one out of all the quotes. Why wouldn't we go and purchase this?
You know,
We wouldn't have to decide tonight how to pay for it.
No,
I looked into financing
Right.
it. I'll be honest, what finance people told me, they said you got the cash, might as well pay for it.
Okay.
I mean, we can get good rates.
Yeah.
They're really good rates right now on municipal finance, but not as good as paying cash. If we put our allocation in to the reserve this year, which we intend to, in about 6 weeks, we're feeding the reserve very well again for future expenditures, so we're not drawing it down to zero. You know, there'll be,
But what you need for the ensuing year, the life packs or the defibrillators, whatever they are.
that would fall within the money that
we're still okay.
Okay.
You should end up, if you go with this, you should end up with still 70,000 in there.
Yeah.
And if the townspeople approve it, there's already another 50,000
Right.
that's gonna go in next year. So technically, should be back at 120,000 next June, if that's when you put, even if we put money out for the defibrillators.
I wonder if that number would come down even more, chief, knowing that we have the cash and we could pay cash.
It was a question I was gonna pose, but it wasn't anything I could pose on the
Right,
chance
yeah.
that we might buy as we might not, so. You know, the other thing is, I don't know exactly what concessions he's gonna get from the Ford. Everybody else has said 3,000. I can't imagine he's gonna get that. I think that's a set rate by Ford itself. But and he never gave me a hard number on what for trade-in, but nobody else is offering more than 35, so I'm thinking that at the least, if he wants to sell us an ambulance, he's gonna have to at least give us match that. So I think we got a little wiggle room, whether we can get him down anymore or not, I don't know. The bottom line was that it needed to be signed for tomorrow. And then after that, then we got a little play with it, so.
So this is a brand new, coming off the line, it's not a demo, it's brand new, coming off the line.
2015.
2015 F-450 4x4 diesel.
Correct.
It meets your specs, and,
Yeah.
I mean, these are the specs that you gave us a copy of, with all the specs.
Yep.
Um,
They're all pretty much the same, I mean,
I think if that's the case, I'd make a motion that we authorize our town manager to contact them and order the ambulance.
Subject to your verifying that.
From Bulldog,
Can I
subject
don't know how
to
you do that, but
verifying
can I-
that
yeah.
all the specs are
Right,
exactly
I'd like to be able
correct.
to sign off on the specs,
Absolutely.
rather than
Yeah.
Jack have to. That's
Absolutely.
something
How
I
about
think.
both of you?
I think you need to spend some time and look at it, make sure, I just,
Yeah, no, usually it's done line by line, right down through,
I
and,
just wanna make sure, this is a quick thing, and I just wanna make sure that we get everything covered and the right people.
yeah, and I know it is, Dan, but the specs have been out for a while. I mean, this is something I started once, and then Todd asked me to hold off a year or so, and then we started again. And then, because things have changed, once the charter changed, I kind of put it out to some of the members so they could, we kind of took that away once the fire chief got involved, so. And then, they got involved, so the specs went out maybe a little bit too specky. So, I mean, everybody knew kind of what we wanted, so, and then, the only thing I've done recently was that after the budget meeting, when Belma brought it up, that we probably should go diesel rather than gas, Brian concurred with that, so I just put the word out to the members that The bodies themselves stay the same, but we need to look at diesel chassis and not gas anymore. So then everybody rescarable, and they just forward me prices, basically. That's why I don't really have the Bulldog spec in front of me. I have it somewhere, it's just that.
So, do we have a motion? Yeah, Donna made a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'm sorry, Jason, you probably should.
Yeah, I'll just say.
I'll second.
Any other discussion from the board?
Just actually. New ambulance.
Oh, you get the work.
No other discussion? All those in favor? One abstention.
All right.
Motion carried.
So,
We'll move forward, we'll verify the spec, verify that everything is there.
Yeah.
And then, probably Jack will be the one, one of us will come back and let you know where we're at and keep you informed.
Work on negotiating session a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. I'm sorry, do you have anything? I just did kind of fool you right about it.
Chief, you wanna take this with you in case you can't?
Yes, if you
I'll
don't
take
mind.
those back and,
Yeah, I can make those disappear if you want.
With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, special meeting.
You guys wanna keep the specs or?
Second.
I don't need it.
I'm sure you've got plenty of paperwork.
Hey folks, hold on, here, we still got a meeting going on here, right? Motion has been made, seconded, all those in favor?
Thank you, sir.
7 o'clock.
That's separate.
You and your separates.
Right, well, that's the second meeting.
Yes,
I suspected.
you don't have an extra copy of it.
Right, gentlemen. Ladies. Thank you very much.
Thanks, chief.
No, it's kind of last minute. You're gonna make a notification, correct, Jack?
What's that?
You're gonna make notification to the vendor, or do you want me to take care of it?
No, they're gonna call me tomorrow. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, I'll make it.
He might not be on the
Oh, I can't, buddy.
Okay, all right, cool.
I got a 9:30 meeting with the auditor, so,
All right.
yeah.
Are you all set?
Yeah. Yep, we're all set.
I'll be over tomorrow.
Yeah, there's stuff out of here.
I know. Can't
yeah,
help
he
it.
said it while I was gone, he was
It's
gonna.
an accident.
Get that working for him?
You do it again? What, you with your paper clips, your package already? 2 times in a
I
row.
know, well,
I don't know what to do.
it's called road training, like the military. Do it once, right, you have to do it again, right?
Alright, it's 7:03, close enough. Call the budget board and selectmen's meeting to order. Again, it's Monday, April 20th, here at the MLD Library. First thing is approval of the agenda.
Second.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Approval of minutes.
Sorry, who moved to approve the agenda as a second? Dan?
Dan?
Thank you.
You certainly don't want to mess up your minutes, because you take exceptionally great minutes.
I know, I thought I was gonna throw out this sheet, not sitting in this seat.
All right, so approval of minutes for April 15th.
Will we accept as written?
Motion to accept as presented. Got a second on that? All those in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. All right, new business, general government.
You just let's make sure everybody's got everything, because I was passing things out fast and furious. You should have 4 documents that I passed out, the minutes that you just approved. That, an agenda, you probably got already, but I gave you another copy. And you should have received a packet with a clip on it, with all the budgets that we're going to talk about tonight. Actually, 3 things, I guess. Three's better than 4. So, that's, everybody got that, we can get started. Remember, again, we're working off Todd's rough draft and trying to fine tune it as much as we can based upon some of the data that we've been able to go through here. My packet isn't in order of the agenda, so it might be easier to go through the packet, to be honest with you, if that's all right with everybody. We just,
We gotta get it all done.
we gotta get it done, so if we just go in order of the packet, if that's all right, Sean, is that all right with you?
Yep.
And just check off as we go through the agenda, make sure we hit them all on the way through. We'll start with the Board of Selectmen budget. And they were, I actually have tons of notes, believe it or not, but those aren't in order either. But the Board of Selectmen's budget has very, very little changes in it from what you're accustomed to. There's no history, real history of expenditure other than the salaries. My understanding is that your salaries are fixed and divided and not according to meetings, so that's a fairly clear cut budget. The planning board budget is a little different because it's paid on by a meeting schedule, and a little more complicated. That's a guess, as you never know really for sure what the planning board schedules of meetings is going to be.
Yeah, they're meeting an awful lot right now.
They're gonna be a little over this year based upon their current meeting schedule, because they're meeting every week. But that's not necessarily something they're accustomed to.
Jack, their sidewalks line item for $100, what is that?
Actually, that is any expense that might come along with that, and I don't have anything specific. I do know that we've increased advertising. As a lot of the activities end up having to be advertised, not so much the meetings, but changes, et cetera, that they have to produce. There was a slight increase in dues and subscriptions, probably due to Southern Maine planning. Matter of fact, I know it is. Everything else is pretty basic. I'm just gonna keep going.
Looks good to me.
Appeals Board, they haven't met. Haven't spent any money for a while.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing, it is. I mean, you need to have, you know, something in there. And that's basically, in 2013, we spent $250 total. Haven't spent anything for this year, so I think you got plenty at the rate you're going.
You said it only spent 200 and,
You spent $250 in 2013. I just went back and did some digging and spent zero to date. So I think $600 is plenty. The professional service budget, I've got some peculiarities to it. Probably go down through and talk about that a little bit. We've kept many of the lines the same where we could. We actually reduced the audit considerably over what Todd had originally put in that line. Todd had, if you look back at that budget that Todd gave you way back in January, February, he had 14,000 in there for audit. And you remember the first, I think it was the first meeting I was here, we accepted an audit bid. And so it came in a lot less, and I'm sure he was, you know, when he put that in there, that was before the bid opening, and he was just, you know, trying to cover that. So we reduced it. It's actually, I think it's 7,200, but, you know, we call them on occasion, and we, you know, have them advise on occasion. Sometimes there's a bill, sometimes they're not, they come tomorrow. You know, so I think if you know, give yourself just a little cushion there, you'll be fine. So I budgeted 8, which is about 6 less than what Todd put in. The big one is the legal, and we talked about this before. You'll probably talk about it forever. That has absolutely no data to support it. It's just the situation that you're in right now with what appears to be many, many legal or duplicate legal issues, and one of which is extensive. I think Tom mentioned the other day that that may not even be enough, or that could very well, I mean, not may, but could end up not being enough. And you'll have, you know, if that's the case, you'll have to, you know, have to deal with that and go back.
Yep.
I don't know what to do, but we're on a crash course right now. And the the downside of the legal challenges that we're faced is that it's not only financially draining, but manpower draining. And it has to be dealt with almost on the spot, as you know, and everything else has to come to a grinding halt. So it's unpleasant, bottom line, and unpleasant financially. We have more than one, as you know, some of them are covered by insurance. We have the Christmas accident still in the works. That hasn't been resolved. That one is a trident cost, but there's, you know, settlements always have a second review as a rule, you know, and there'll be some costs there. And there are a couple of code issues right now that are up there that no doubt will probably, well, I've already started, so I know there's gonna be some legal costs to a couple of the code challenges that we're faced with, so. Not very pleasant news, but the reality. Engineering costs were over. And a couple of them have potential litigation because we're over, but then you have to wrestle with, is the litigation cost effective, you know, to try to retrieve engineering costs that, you know, that aren't terribly excessive, and that the legal costs may cost, you know, maybe maybe higher than what you're trying to retrieve. And that's a juggle. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, there is no formula. There's always the management's energy that says when people don't pay the bills that they're supposed to pay, you need to dig in and be stubborn about it and insist that people pay. And then there's the financial side that says being stubborn is gonna cost you a lot of money. But I, for one, will speak to the fact that it's discouraging to have people not pay their bills and ultimately get off, you know, you let them off the hook.
These engineering peer reviews that we have to have done for a developer or something like that?
No, these are more or less construction code issues, you know. We had to have third-party reviews, et cetera. They're not big, but they mount up. I mean, obviously they're not big, you can see they're not big. They're anticipated, should have been reimbursed, haven't been reimbursed. And I think engineering, if you have a major engineering need, that's $3,000 not gonna pay to get a man.
Well, this is moving forward, is there any way that we can have those costs upfronted rather than submit a bill to someone?
I think so. We've had some discussions around that. We've also had discussions about the need to be more formal in agreements in writing. You know, other than construction site conversations. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Where I said, I didn't say that. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm talking about. It's a different world out there, folks. It isn't a shake hand environment like it used to be, is it, Phil? You know what I mean? And yet,
It's gone.
you
Very
have,
few you can shake hands.
it's a learning curve for everybody. This isn't a huge amount of money, but,
No, but just going forward, I think we ought, on the agenda,
That's right.
we ought to get money up front, and then we'll reimburse what we don't spend.
in the case of, many cases, we're back to construction timing again, you know, and all of those other things, but we're a pretty friendly town, and pretty, our philosophy is to work cooperatively as much as we can. Occasionally, you get burned by that, and I think you learned, and you move forward in a much more, I don't wanna say sophisticated manner, but much more technical and legal process, you know. And constantly remind yourself. So that budget is totally, basically, grossly influenced by your legal costs.
Yep.
You know. And,
We're on board with it.
everything else, I tried to budget realistically to what I think you're spending. Many times, you're not doing anybody any favor when you know you're over your budget, a couple of years in a row, and then you keep it the same. It's just not the right pathway. The next one on there is a big budget as well. Some of these things you've talked about in other budgets, but it kind of all shows up here on this one page. One of them is your road project reserve that came up at Public Works discussion with Roger. And we went over that. That's basically the same as what you had put in previously.
Excuse me, Jack, could we just go back to professional services?
Yes, sir.
Looking at services going up $1,000. I know we were talking about engineering, but services, that just due to elections and?
That is exactly what that is. I had to ask, but that, how'd you know that? That's a good job. The cost of the upcoming elections, it depends on how many you got in the, coming up in your calendar year, et cetera. But I went over that with Simone, and she said, you better beef it up a little bit.
Okay.
And I think
I
as
trust
more,
her.
I think as more and more of our elections are done through the machine, it costs more to get those ballots done up. They go into the machine.
The printing cost and the balance and so on.
Yeah.
If no one has any questions, I guess now we can go back over to reserves.
The reserve starts off with $500,000, just $500,000 on the first line, nothing serious. But that 450, Roger presented to you, if you remember right, okay? Public Works equipment, that's your contribution to reserve. Fire department capital, that's your contribution to capital. There's gotta be a line somewhere where you feed, those reserves accounts, and this is the line that does it. Parks and Recs, that's your $5,000 that Jen talked about, the very first budget we did. We're gonna put that towards a bus, and that goes in reserve. Municipal building, these are my notes. That red says to be determined. You carried that account, you got money in it, but you haven't put any money in for a while. I'm assuming that you are realizing that that's a bond, and feeding it is nice, but you can't feed it enough in a budget year to take much of a bite out of a, 2 whatever million dollar building, so maybe you back off, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we were putting like 25 grand there
Yeah.
for a couple of years, that's about all. This wasn't,
Right, that probably paid for the stamps,
Yeah.
right. All right, I just wanted to make sure I didn't assume something inappropriately, but if I was Kennebunk Free Library, you've been putting 12, they asked for 15. go through this every year, I'm sure every town does. I put 13 because you've been at 12 for 2 years. I didn't put 15 that they requested. I don't know, it's your call. I thought I put something, but
So everybody else, when I look at the, I kind of group them into the social, kind of like the social services request. You know,
yeah, I was surprised it's in here.
Yeah, and for the most part, with the exception of just a couple, we've pretty much, they stayed, no, actually they went up a little bit. We didn't give them everything that they requested. I certainly don't wanna go up to 15 with the kind of unfair liability, but every year they keep asking for a whole lot more and a whole lot more, and frankly, I'm frustrated with that. But they are a worker trying to hold a flat budget like everybody else. My opinion, we keep it at 12.
I'm not even thinking that we give them 12,000 and people are still paying for cards. Seems like I heard that somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. I believe that's correct.
We give them money and people still gonna pay
thought
to
it-
win.
I thought at 12, they said they would accept the 12, last year, they said they would accept the 12 from the town, and that would cover everything. The year before, we only gave them,
It was the year before that we gave them nothing. It was voted, they got nothing. Because the town voted at the town meeting.
Yeah, their representative shot herself.
shot us up in the foot. Last year, they said that they would accept, they had asked, I think, last year for 15. And we said, no, we can give you 12, and they said they would accept that and extend, that would be as though we had paid, covered everything, and nobody had to pay.
You
So you-
disagree with that, Ray?
Yeah. So you might want,
It's like I said before,
Yeah.
free library, and how many people in town use it?
Last year was
Huh?
like 130, I think,
Yeah, and how many people do we have in town?
4,200.
So we're paying for 130 people to go to that library and use it. And foreign, it don't take a genius to work it out.
There are,
Paying $130 per person that used it.
yeah, and there are other local libraries around that don't cost you anything.
It's true.
The question is, you have that argument now, or you had that argument at town meeting?
I know.
That's, other people have different views of that.
So
Yeah.
which way do we get the argument? I mean, which way, you mean, obviously that, to draw the argument, which way do you present it? Present it at 13 and that draws the argument? Or present it at 0 and then draw the real argument?
You can't present it at zero.
If you present it at 0, you won't give them nothing at all.
It goes
You
nowhere.
gotta have a,
Well, they can't go up.
So
I
then you
would-
present it at
Let's
13.
leave it at
draws 0.
12.
yeah, I would check with them to make sure that at 12, that they will accept the 12 and still extend all the full courtesies to the town of Arundel that they would normally do. And then if someone wants to stand up at town meeting and make a motion that we reduce that to 0, then we can have the discussion. But make sure that at 12, that you're not gonna have a bunch of people, have them saying as they did a few years back, no, if you don't give us the whole amount, then you're gonna pay.
But then they shoot themselves in the foot then too, because we'll say no. The town will vote no, so.
Fine, then we'll do that at town meeting and the town will vote no.
That's right. But the town,
Do we have any current numbers on how many people use that library, Jack? Is that they-
Yeah, I was just looking at.
they'll bring it
a lot
to
of
town
them.
meeting, John.
Will it?
Yeah, they always do. Representatives there with the number of people, you know, like, and then Ray can do the math. I mean, I don't disagree with your argument, Ray, but I'm just saying.
852 library cards issued to residents of Arundel.
At 852?
That's
None
not,
of the squatters.
so the town of Arundel is paying for 852 folks.
21% of your residents roughly.
It's like $130 a person.
Oops.
I'm gonna put 12 and make the call,
Yeah, I would.
if that's all right with everybody. Chamber of Commerce, they went up $500.
With the fire department capital equipment, with the fact that the TIF is going to be kicking in this year, and I think as we were told that we had to spend some of that money on the fire department.
Correct.
Do we need this much in their capital equipment account? Because we're, I think this is a year that we've got to go out and get didn't he say the brush truck or something? We've got to go out and get that. We've got to start spending that money from the TIF. So if we're going to do that, then everything to equip that piece, to me, that piece of equipment should all come from the TIF.
It might, but I mean, the chief was describing, I think Jason probably tells me, every year it's equipment that needs to be replaced, updated, I mean, on and on it goes. At least that I'm hearing every year. I mean,
But 50,
I'm not saying 50 grand is needed, but you're always gonna get like a 3-year cycle over there where
yeah.
it's gonna be air packs or gear or,
We wouldn't be paying for this ambulance cash if we didn't do it.
yeah.
Right. I mean, if you pay for the ambulance, you're gonna, roughly, you're gonna end up around $10,000-12,000 before, you know, with what's in there now. And I think we need to keep going because who knows what's gonna happen down the road again.
Yeah, because we need to get a pumper truck.
I
Those
think a
are cheap.
pumper is actually included in that TIF.
In the TIF, yeah.
We are gonna need another,
Humble was second year TIF at 200,000. I'm going by memory, but I think that's first year was,
What they may need is a place to keep this equipment once we get it. Unless we can retire enough old equipment to make room for this one. Or get rid of the town hall so you can enlarge the fire station.
I don't think we need a bigger fire station, but we need to discard the old stuff instead of hanging on to
Instead
it.
of hanging on to it.
I don't think it's a bad idea to keep it going status quo. I think it was comforting this year to know we needed something, money was there, we bought it.
Not yet.
There's still pumpers, pumpers those aren't,
We're gonna replace one within the TIF, but within the next, I bet 7 to 10 years, we're gonna need an additional engine to replace an engine,
and those are around, what,
you know,
300?
300.
you know, I think it was a restaurant that was 200, wasn't it, Jason?
Yeah, but there's no way we're gonna spend $200,000 on a bus truck. No way.
And with the ATV together?
With an ATV, a trailer, forestry gear, skid unit, no way.
With a restaurant too, no?
150, maybe?
I mean, they just spent, they were talking about spending 183 on an
Well,
ambulance.
yeah,
That's a hell of a lot.
because that's all gonna be bonded, so you can bond what you need, you don't have to, I mean,
Right.
you know, that's not. All right,
Okay, we dropped it by a whole $1,000.
what do you wanna do with your sheriff's department?
Is that accurate, the 90?
Have you heard anything back from the, letter
Turn
that
the
you
camera
sent?
off? No. I've reached out twice for clarification on the bill, once way back when I first got here, and once a couple of weeks ago. It said, if the bill for this year, remember, was 94,000.
Yeah, 93.7.
Right. And, so, I've indicated that we're gonna be paying the 84.5, because that's what we budgeted. I understand the increase and, you know, some of it, not all of it. It makes sense, but the difference between 84 and 93.5, it needs a better explanation than what I got. I understand budgeting for the exact officer that's here, but, whoa, that's a big
Yeah.
difference. But anyway, making a long story short, in answering Jason's question, I don't know, Jason, I put 90. If we go on the bill that we actually got this year and budget that, then I need to put 94, and that's for this year, never mind, you know, an increase. But,
So we don't, anything from the sheriff, I mean, we gotta get a contract with him, don't we?
yeah,
At some number.
and I've talked about, you know, questions at town meeting, you know, that people may ask, and, you know, people may want some specific answers that I don't think it's my job or your job to answer.
Usually the sheriff is there at town meeting.
But,
It's no longer Mo, it's,
Bill,
Bill King.
King.
I don't know what to budget, but I would at least budget 90. And, that's a safety figure, you know, sort of.
So he isn't even prepared to give us a contract for next year.
I haven't seen anything,
Do
no.
we get a contract from them every year?
And the contract didn't have a figure in it,
Yeah, that's gotta change.
Yeah,
the old one.
yeah.
That's not right.
What was the term of the last one, was it 3 years?
Sounds a long time.
Yeah.
I guess what, both letters I sent were pretty professionally written. I mean, I'm not bragging, but they were, you know, they weren't rip and snot letters, they were just, hey, you know, let's get this settled. You indicated that, you know, we needed to settle it, you know, get, you know, whatever, and I call them reach out, but at the same time, encourage, you know, letters, and I've got no responses from either one.
Are we in a tough spot with the sheriff's department? Like, let's say the town votes, well, you have an inaccurate contract, the number went up X amount of dollars this year. We don't wanna fund you. I mean, what's our option at that point? We don't have a police service?
You don't have
State
a
police,
contract
right.
deputy.
You get county service.
You get state, right?
You get state and county
You
coverage.
get state police service.
We saw how that worked in Lyman.
There won't be a
Yeah,
priority.
You get no priority patrol. And I
Tried
think
that one, that happened one year.
a while back, when we didn't have priority patrol, the crime rate in Arundel started rising rapidly. And when we went back into it, it decreased as rapidly. So having a deputy riding around town, I think is beneficial for mostly folks that are not home during the day.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I hope they don't look at Arundel like a monopoly game to them, because, I mean, what are our other options? Either you don't fund us, or your crime goes up.
Do we
So
have
they can charge us whatever they want, right?
Or you do like Millbridge and hire your own police officer, you know, I mean, there are towns that,
Yeah,
you own the cruiser, you know.
Yeah, that 90, that, when we're talking 90,000, I mean, we could hire somebody, I would think.
It would be a good, would be a good exercise for next year,
Well, we're not gonna-
to,
coverage on this stuff.
look into that option and see how it would, you know, you probably aren't gonna be able to do it for a decision for this town meeting, but next year's town manager assignment may be to, you know, look at different options or whatever to see if, you know, providing your own police officer would,
I would almost think for 90 grand, you could get two, you know? Pay them 35 grand a year plus their benefits or something. And then they could alternate days or something.
Your current arrangement, of course, you know, it's 40 hours, and then it has rotating schedules, and you have to have 3 days off, you know, for your,
So as it stands now, we only have 40 hours a week coverage.
correct.
And I
No
think
one
even at
knows.
that, it's 2 days, 2 nights, I don't even think it's like a
Right.
consistent.
It's not
Yeah.
every day from 3 days.
And you don't know which 2 days or 2 nights.
Keep
But
that
that's
secret.
just
You
a
can't
know.
wonder.
No.
You don't want to know.
No.
We keep that secret.
Do we have the option of talking to an adjacent town, Kenny Bunker, Biddeford, and see if they're willing to do it?
Didn't we do that before?
Yeah.
And they refused.
My history on that
We
is,
tried that, they both towns refused.
yeah,
What was it?
that's a huge union issue, as a rule.
Yeah, I think it's gonna come down to union issue,
Both police,
jurisdictional.
traditionally, police unions are very strong unions. I've lived at both ends, so, you know, this is a subject I know a little bit about, but.
I think it's because both towns have 24-hour coverage, so therefore, if they added us as if we were another zone in their town, they would have to cover us for 24-hour coverage.
That's a
And by the
liability.
time they added up the cost of their officers to do that, then, I mean, we don't have enough in the budget to cover that.
Right.
So it wasn't just, oh, we'll only send one officer over,
Right.
because say Kennebunk's covering us and you've got a problem and our officer's off duty. Well, dispatch is going to call Kennebunk. What are they gonna say? Oh, no, it's not my hour, you know, it's not my time to go over there. They can't do that.
So Jack, can we try to, rather than email, can we try to make some
No,
phone
no, these
calls?
haven't been emails. These have been,
Phone calls?
no, they've been, well, I had phone call, but these have been, you know, professionally written letters.
Right, so I,
Because I wanted that to be, you know, a record document, you
Yeah.
know.
yeah, but, I mean, if we can try to reach out and make some phone calls and say, hey, look, you know, we need this, we're at budget time here, we gotta understand what our cost is, or fear of not getting funded.
Or is this a sheriff who doesn't want his officers out in other towns as contract officers?
They're looking at more.
Yeah.
They're I sat in on a little, I don't know, what do I wanna call it? It was if I was in education, I'd call it a study group, but, you know, a task force or whatever, but there's a little interest within sheriff's office now of consolidating and clustering towns, which is an interesting concept, and maybe something of the future where like Lyman and Alfred and Arundel would actually employ a cluster of services as a group, and then we would have regional service rather than global
Countywide,
county
yeah.
services. It's
So I mean, I think that's
something
something.
to think about down the road.
We can tackle that,
That's something,
from the selectmen's level moving forward, but for this, you know, I mean, I certainly don't wanna give them an open checkbook, and, we need to understand what their costs are, because nobody else in this town has an open checkbook. Nobody else has an open checkbook, so.
Yeah.
And if that's true, if they're looking to do this cluster, but you think they would be responding to us?
Yeah.
That's the thing that bothers me.
that was a
Anything.
kind of a brainstorming
I
thing,
understand
you
that, but
know.
still, if they're looking
futuristic.
to get out to more communities, they'd want positive input. Somebody calls us and says, what's your, you know, they're gonna get a negative response from us. A town that's thinking about maybe doing this is gonna get a negative response from us, because we're not getting any input from them.
Contracting services to towns is a financial savior for SOs. I mean, it really is. I mean, this is a good business for them to be in. This is not common just to York County. I mean,
Yeah,
I worked for Hancock County Sheriffs, and we contracted with 8, 9 different towns, you know what I mean?
I understand that, Jack, but what I'm saying is,
Right.
that then why are they not responding to our requests for
I don't know.
for information? I just,
Must
And
be the word
and for
interim.
them to go up $9,500 in 1 year, without any warning, and just go, oh, here's your bill, wait a minute, they've gone up $9,500. That's something that's seriously wrong.
Well, you gotta understand, we can't pay it.
Yeah.
right, $9,500 is beyond our threshold for.
We can't pay it, we didn't authorize that.
Right.
And whatever number this is, I think the sheriff would wanna make sure it's gonna cover this cost. Still,
I just said something that's probably more truth than mine, that's the word interim. You know, and, you know, perhaps, you know, that's affecting how we proceed, you know.
But do you know, with our contract, do you know the term of our contract? I mean, if we.
Yeah, I can look, I think it's over in June, I'm pretty sure it's, but don't quote me down, okay, because, you know, it was a long time ago.
Still need to know a number.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
It doesn't make any sense.
Personally, I think that 90,000 is a fair budget figure.
But if they come back with a bill, it's 96, then we're
I think we'll tell the sheriff we've got 90.
90
That's
That's
what
what
I
you
told,
get.
I told him at 84 this year.
Yeah, that's all you're gonna get.
I may not be
Maybe
your
that's
favorite
what we'll do.
intro.
Maybe
Yeah.
we leave it at 84 and say, hey, listen, that's what we budgeted. You never responded to
Thanks,
us.
Jake. What's that?
I said, maybe we leave it at 84
That's
and
what I
say,
was
you
just-
never responded to us. That's what we had to set a budget. That's all we can afford to give you.
Well, I thought of that, but I didn't want to create a, you know, a crisis down the road where everybody gets all wound up and you end up having, you know, 5 special town meetings to discuss this
And
and,
it's a 6% increase
you know.
from, you know,
'Cause this will be
84
a hot
last
button.
year
Oh,
To
yeah.
90 or the 94?
Yeah, but
99.
the current bills are 94.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
well, yeah.
There's a segment of the community that wants more police in this town.
Yeah, this is what I would consider a hot button. If you can't get it resolved, then you end up, you know, in some kind of a conflict. So that's why I put 90, because I think you can work with that and maybe not run it up the flagpole. Not that.
But
you know.
then that's, like you said, then it's 90, but then that's all we have to work with. They can't come back
That's
with
what they
a
approved.
$94,000 bill.
I mean, I got a little bit of time to make another call, and I, you know, I'm not, obviously, I'm not shy.
What about a field trip, Jack? Drive over and
Let's all go over.
Yeah.
Yeah?
take the right part. I mean,
See, this,
face Mike.
Over
You
to
know,
the jumpsuit.
absolutely, Jason, for the good of the town, absolutely, you know. I tend to get a little stubborn when there's $90,000 on the table and I have to run around trying to find somebody that's willing to take it.
Yeah.
But for the good of the town,
Yeah.
I'll put that stubbornness away, you know. But what? I mean, I'd be, right? I mean,
All right, so we'll go with 90,000 for right now, and if we hear anything in the next day or so, we can make adjustments.
nothing changes till we get down to the per diems. This is what we did on the per diems. We budgeted a 3% increase, they've been at the same rate for 2 years. So we budgeted 3% and we budgeted 2 holidays in the discussion. Christmas and Thanksgiving, and that's why that shows an increase.
So these folks, their rate has been the same for 2 years, you said?
They haven't, per diems have at least 2 years. I only went back, but they've been at the same rate of pay for 2 years. I think that's why Todd addressed it the way he did. We clarified the holidays so that, you know,
And they don't get overtime.
they'll get that holiday pay, what, for those 2 holidays, whatever that is.
And if they work that day, they just end up getting actually double pay. They get paid to work that day, plus they get their holiday pay. if they work that day.
I think it's just time and a half flat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
Economic development, we didn't budget anything, that was a project, if you remember right, you had a special project that you were doing.
Okay.
The dumpster roll-off I took out, because I put it in, remember we put it in the transfer station budget? I mean, it seems to me like it belonged there.
Any word back on the lease? or the rent?
Yeah, I talked to Stu, I think I said, I might even forwarded an email and said that,
Oh, you did?
you know, he could do it, but, he can also, you know, work it into the
Into the rate.
It's a $5,000 item, we
Contract.
probably shouldn't get too creative on a $5,000 item.
Pay for it, get it fixed.
Just go ahead.
But we never did officially make a decision on if we were going 2 times, right? Because we've already expended the full amount of the transfer station reserve.
For the.
Out of reserve.
Right, for the ones that.
Right, so we had to recoup that money plus factor in another repair this year, right? So we had actually pondered doing a double,
If you wanna put another 5 into that reserve, yes. According to Roger, you aren't gonna be paying the cans in the future.
No, we don't need it.
They're gonna be disposable.
Right.
yeah?
This will be the last one. Save this can and we're done.
That doesn't mean you won't be asked to buy one,
Right.
but
Yeah, you'll be buying cans. not
you'll be buying them instead of repairing them, I think.
All the old ones, this will be the last of the old.
The last of the old
Can't be
heavy duty.
repaired.
Right,
That you own,
Yeah,
that you own. There's others up there that find trios.
So with that said, how much is a new can? I mean, are they outrageous 50,000?
I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know, I never asked.
Well, when Roger was here, he was saying that this repair was
It would last longer, but it's not
less
cheap.
longer, but
Costs
not
longer
necessarily
than new.
cheaper, right? I think the overall analysis was it would be cheaper to repair this thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, I can ask Jason, you know, I never asked that
If
question.
they were 40 or 50 grand, it might be worth us throwing an extra 5 this year or something.
You know, if they are,
We better start thinking about it.
you may wanna keep feeding that reserve. I think that's what you're thinking.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Jack.
I think we need.
Or we just buy them and just build it into the rates going forward, we, you
Been a
know, let
long,
them own it.
you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, let Pine Tree continue to own, we'll build a surcharge into the rate.
You ought to get out of the can,
I agree, leave them in there.
you know, and when they fall apart, tell them bring it over.
Right,
That's right, you're the experts.
Yeah,
Let them deal with it.
let them supply the cans
Yeah.
and
You pay for it, but
reflect
that's
it
all
in the
right.
contract.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Contract and the price of the cars.
Should be a while before we see that
That's why
anyway.
I go for the cans. The only thing is, if they own the cans and they happen to get damaged, I don't know if the damage comes from us, from the town, or if it comes from them transporting them. And if they own the cans and the town damages the can, are they gonna bill us to rebuild them?
I don't know, but you've been
Get
up,
insurance for those.
Yeah, that's it.
you've been out there, and you know,
Yeah.
common sense tells you, and Roger can, Roger can deal with this maybe a little differently too down the road, but you know that a lot of those doors are damaged with backhoe, you know, compacting, some of that stuff. I mean, you can tell, you can, and we do the compacting, you know.
Yeah, but they also do it on site too. They also do it when they deliver, drop the can too. They can do it themselves, because they have to use a
Yeah,
backhoe to dig it out of the box as well, so.
It's definitely not for someone throwing
Because the way we-
a bag of trash.
now you know what, though, you're probably right, they probably do,
Yeah, so that's one of those ones you can't, you know.
yeah.
It'll be a while before we get that
Yeah.
anyway.
Right.
We just repaired one, we're gonna be repairing another one, it's gonna be, what, 3, 4 years anyway, probably, at the earliest before we come across that.
Well, we spent a lot of time discussing cans.
Let's get off the can.
All right.
Now we're at revenue.
We are, and we've got some holes to fill, but we've got another meeting. I'm we still haven't got quite used to people who don't work 5 days a week. So we've got 2 people that are resources for this budget that weren't in on Friday. And so I lost them. And then today being a holiday, so I got a couple of holes to fill still, but that's all right. I got a little bit of time. This is a very conservative revenue page, and I would think if it's probably time to do that with not having veteran staff. It would seem to me like we shouldn't be anything but conservative this year.
Well, that's not good.
Well, the last thing you need is someone trying to make the picture look better than it is, and not having a lot of good history to support that, you know, those recommendations, that's for sure. Excise tax, I think we're doing really well, and I'm comfortable with that. Last year, we budgeted $675, we took in $785. Before that, we budgeted $640,000, took in $711. So we've been above estimate twice now. So being conservative, 785, 711, I put 725. Things are looking up, economy's looking up. You know, currently, as of April, we collected 617. So we're on track this year for about 700. But yet, the next couple, 3 months are usually, you know, good months, because people get, you know, spring fever and get into the
Tax money.
mood. So I think 725 has got some pretty good data behind it to use as a figure. Hopefully it'll be a little conservative, but you can't be over on every account. Boat excise stays just about right on. Apparently, the boaters are boaters, and we haven't had a lot of variety over the years. We're a little bit short, but boat season's coming up, so nobody wants to do anything out of the box on that. License and permits, we're pretty close, my notes say, to the 13, and nobody wants to suggest anything beyond that. Vitals, we upped it the last year, not any data that would tell you to do anything different at this point. Licenses, business licenses, we're up. We've already collected 750, but that's that's $150 over what you got. You wanna, go to auction casino for 150? I don't think so. Building permits. Here again, we currently have 22.6 as of right now. I suggested to leave it at 25. This hasn't been a huge year, and you'll notice that when Beth gives us, her valuation stuff. However, excuse me, since the last month or two, you know, indications are it will be, next year will be better than this year. At least that's how it's starting out to be. But there wasn't anything there that motivated any changes. Electrical permits, we may be a little short. Nothing, but she felt that we'll be close enough to, you know, to leave it the same. Plumbing permits. Here's a question that we had for Tad and Jim that we didn't get answered today, that I got a big note on my computer screen, and that, and maybe I'm just not even understanding this right, but as you know, plumbing and electrical permits come from, you know, the construction of buildings, et cetera, and we got just thinking about the tips and the cottages. And the question, if Tad was right here right now, I'd say to Tad and to Jim, are we gonna be able to collect plumbing and electrical fees on each one of those units that is built? Or was that a package of, you know, fees that would, you know, that were negotiated or built into that project as a whole?
Well, the septic is common septic system, so.
The septic is common.
But the electricals, they're all gonna be all individuals.
I would think there'd be a fee on each cottage, wouldn't there?
They'll have to be inspected.
That's how, I didn't know that.
Should be a building permit on every one.
That I don't know either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, we may have a little boost in that.
Yeah.
And if it's something that I can do in the next couple of days, I'll boost it. But-
Yeah, but that won't be, there's not a whole lot going in this year for that.
No, I mean, well,
So there's only,
12 units or something, there's 11 units going in this year.
If they're
Plus the
lucky.
sales office, right, and the common building, isn't it? And it's all based on square foot.
I'll ask, but it was just popped into my head because I said, wait a minute, you know? So that we might be able to boost that up a little. And so that brings us down into intergovernmental. Highway block grant, 47,496 is what we budgeted. We have 40,428 to date. So about 7,000 short to date in that line. In 2014, we ended up $3,700 short. So the trend's going down. It appears to. So instead of budgeting 47,496, I budgeted 40.
Okay.
If the year before was 37 short, and the year before, and we're only 40, yeah, we're 7 short to date right now. I don't know how, I know that comes in. I asked Lisa to look to see if it came in on a schedule, you know, like every fourth Thursday of the month, you know, we got it, and it doesn't. So it's hard to predict how much more we're gonna have, but I'd be a little bit safe on that. That's that conservative comment that I made earlier. Homestead, we're current at 68.3 right now. So we're a little above, but not an awful lot, so I didn't think it was significant enough to change the figure. But at least we're not going down. Personal property, tax reimbursement, I think that's the better, if I remember right from my old days of town manager. I got a big red circle on my paper, the notes just need to talk to Beth. we have, but we budgeted 17.5, and we're at 31,840 right now.
Just going all the page from that?
What is that?
This makes me nervous when I see stuff like this, only because it's usually not part of the presentation, right? And- Right, and when somebody says we budgeted 17, we've taken in 31.8, that requires homework. So I get this big note, says check with Beth tomorrow. Because if that's true, great, not a problem, but, I'll fine tune that between now and Thursday night. Obviously, for the purposes of giving something to Lisa, I said make it 25. But I'd circle that if I were you on your paper too, and say, look, you know, go back and check that. Snowmobiles, I think we're done with the registration, we're gonna be a little short, actually, not much. But Todd had increased it in my notes that I took today to 2,000, and we're gonna be short this year, so I'm not really crazy about increasing it. I mean, we shot down a couple of bucks. Tree growth, we're at 55 now. Not knowing if anything more will come in, so 55 looks like a good figure. General assistance, we need just a little more explanation from Wendy on that. Right now, in 2014, we budgeted 7,600. Right now, we've spent 1,950, we've taken in 1,959. All right? So that's got a red circle on my page that says check with Wendy. Something's not right there from the point of view of, and I did ask her Friday, because we were, you know, we've been pecking away at this, and I said, Wendy, general assistance revenue, we've been budgeting 10,000 is, you know, what do you think? And she said, yeah, 10,000 will be fine. What I didn't tell her was we'd only taken in 1,900. I didn't know that until today, so tomorrow morning, I'm gonna ask her to see if she can explain that a little bit more to me.
I wonder if that's a government reimbursement or something after
Yeah.
April or whatever.
Revenue sharing, all I can say is call your legislators. Last year, we took in 159,850, so we were a little bit above Todd's estimate of 150, about 9,000. To date, we're 114,700.
Let's go back to the general assistance.
Yeah.
When we look under the general assistance, there's a welfare of $20,000. So that's that, and the note there is also 50% is reimbursed by the state.
Yeah, turn the page, I'm on my top page.
So I think that's where that
Okay.
comes from.
So if we spend 20, we get 10 back. Providing,
It's what's spent on welfare, we
On
get
welfare.
50% back.
yeah,
If we spent 2, we get 4 back.
no,
No.
Get to it.
If we spend two, we get one back.
one
Oh,
down,
yeah, I got it. We need to check.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. For revenue sharing to date, 114,700. If it keeps coming in, that'll pick up about 36,000 more. There's no reason that it won't, because that's a regular schedule contribution. So if the legislature doesn't do anything, your 150 should be a good number. Politics, and I've been not as connected as I normally would be, but, or have in the past, but I think if the governor tries to take revenue sharing, he's gonna get some pushback. Pretty high this time around.
I think he already is.
And if I had to, you could be 150,000 short if he takes this away from you. But if you're that short, you gotta go back down 80. But everybody else in the United States will go, not, but everybody else in the state is gonna be in the same boat unless they budget nothing. And who can afford to budget nothing? So I would say you got a good reason to leave what you got and a good explanation if you misjudge it. If you were flush and wanted to not have that revenue in there, you could budget nothing, be 150 ahead, can't spend it, be unappropriated, but I left it for right now. My guess is you won't know the answer to this until after you go to print. Service charges, I'm gonna find that on my notes. This is gonna take me a minute, I got it. Lease revenues, we're averaging about 2,100 per month from the Sprint Tower. So we did the math, it's pretty close to that 27, so I think you're fine there. And that's basically the Sprint Tower. Appeals Board, not much action around that. Haven't had any revenue for years. In 2013, you did get $250 once. Put nothing, put
Yeah,
$500.
we approved $500.
Right.
Don't get it.
Planning Board, you've collected a little bit more every year, but not significant enough so that I thought I could, or wanted to change that figure. And if I did, it would be by $100 or something, Dogs, a little bit over in our revenue, but there again, I mean, if it was $500, I'd do it, but if it's 173 is not, probably not. My wife had anything to do about it, you'd have a lot more there on that account. Ambulance revenue, we're at 104 right now. The year that you budgeted 90, which was 214, you took in 106. But you're down from the previous year right now, or you got, a couple of months to go, but, I think 110 is probably realistic, and maybe a tad low, because I think people are using ambulance services much more regular, more more often than historically they have. But I don't think at 104 right now, I'm not sure I wanna raise it too much more. Because you're six, you know, you could, take a chance. That's tough to budget those. You know, you go back and you look at your history and it's all over the place too, because there's no consistency to it. But from what I'm hearing from the different firehouses that I hang out in, that there's a trend for ambulance calls to be greater than every year than the number before. It's a question of what you can collect. You know, one thing to say you got 20% more calls, that doesn't always correlate to 20% more revenue. We belong to a system, as you know, contract. Is that right? Comtech?
Yeah.
I think Comtech, yeah. They do a pretty good job at going after delinquent money. Medicare is limited, but it's a pretty solid resource.
Comstar.
Comstock, thank you. Recreation, Jen talked to you about that, that's the figure that she gave you. She's pretty consistent with that. Copies, last year, 735, we're now at 523. Won't play with that too much. Town report, that's that LOUBD SUB books. I couldn't for the love of me figure out what that was. But looked good.
Land use ordinance, it's probably when they,
Right.
when they sell,
Interest charges. All I can say to you is check your own savings account, you'll know what the answer is to this one. I don't know if you see them, and you probably will, you know, down the road, but if you get those finance reports, I get them and I look at them and sometimes they're in the warrants, you know, interest 34 cents, 18 cents, you know, I mean, it's gone are the days, but I dropped that. Currently, your interest and penalties, and actually this is where I am, I increased, I'm sorry. Because your penalties are up, you're currently at 18.5, last year at 16. That's not interest on your money. So I think you're real comfortable there. Delinquent interest, a lot of you liens and, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, it gives you more interest, but it also means you have less, you know, less people pay when they're supposed to. Delinquent interest, Todd upped that some, we upped it a little bit more. We've collected 76, and I'm not sure that might not be a typo. Let me check on that. My note said I budgeted 8, she's got 9. So circle that, and I'll check it.
That's on charges?
That's on charges and delinquents. Oh, sorry, no, forget it, I'm one ahead. I'm on interest and delinquents at 8, that's fine, and charges is 9, that's good, because we checked these figures and I didn't think there was a typo, but that's fine. On charges and delinquents, we're at 11.4 right now, that's why I upped it. Year before, We had 7, we collected 9. So, I think you can up that a little bit. Sorry, I got off lines.
When we get more than what we budgeted, does that go in the undesignated fund? Or is it, where does it go?
It goes in your reserve, it goes in your balances that are and then
Goes into undesignated.
your auditor will carry them all forward, put it undesignated. And that's to be determined the next line, how much you're gonna draw out of there.
Yeah, right.
You know,
But that's, whenever we get more money, that's where it ends up with. It
yeah,
ends up in
not
the-
spent, can't be spent.
No, I understand
Right,
that.
and goes into your, lack of other word, it all has different names. Schools have different names in towns, but I think yours is the undesignated fund balance is what I think municipal term is. It goes in the unappropriated balance in schools, because it means the same thing, it hasn't been voted on, so you can't spend it. Miscellaneous, we have 2 CDs that are worth 200,000, I believe. Then Andover and Infinity. The 600 is, the 6,000 is, what she felt was appropriate. Undesignated fund balance, I just have a big box with a red square that says to be determined. I sent Todd an email today. Todd's talking about a $2 million undesignated fund balance. This is embarrassing, but neither Lisa or I can find a line which that is in. That doesn't mean, we're just don't know what we're looking for. The auditor's coming tomorrow, so I'll for totally that TIF discussion that we talked about, but I'm gonna find out, because I grabbed the audit and I looked there. I'd like to be able to see clearly a number that represents your savings account, you know? And I'm sure it's there, I mean, that's not even a question, you know, it's there, but I haven't seen it yet, and I'm, you know, to say, if you said to me right now, Jack, what do we have right this, you know, I couldn't tell you, because I couldn't find, you know, that in a book to show it to you, and I want to be able to do that. Because sooner or later here, you know, within a very short time, you're gonna decide how much in the cookie jar you're gonna go, and you're gonna need to know exactly, you know, what that figure is. I heard 2 million, and then at one point, I heard 3 million. Do anybody have a fresher figure than I do
I
about
thought
what
it was closer to 2 million. I seem to remember Todd, when he first came, it was less than that, and I remember him saying that we should try to target 2 million and keep 2 million in there. Seems to me I remember him talking about that.
Yeah, because that's
Yeah,
what, he's mentioned over the past couple of years during the budget cycle, like he likes to keep, say he'd like to keep it around $2 million, so that way it gives us, you know, a full quarter of being able to pay the bills.
I thought that was mandated anyway. I thought we had to have like 6 months
I don't,
in an account, huh?
I think that's the auditor's recommendation.
That's all it was, his recommendation?
Yeah.
we got, Old Orchard had 13, and the auditor actually, you know, recommended that we don't keep that much. Okay, because that's, could be argued as too much taxpayers' money, you know, in a reserve.
What's in the sweep account?
The sweep account changes every day, every
Yeah,
night.
the money goes in there and then they sweep it
Right.
into a pot. What's
That's
in it?
correct.
How much are we keeping in that pot?
I think it's on that little spreadsheet that I gave you tonight, or did I give it to you
The
tonight?
general fund,
No, fireman did.
what are you looking for? Sweep?
It's a sweep account, which is, that's the whole sweep account.
Yeah, that's the whole sweep.
Right,
Right,
And that's got over $2 million in it.
right,
okay.
but that's everything else, that's
Right.
right.
Anyway, I'll get some clarification on that for you, have to, you know, decide. But I think in Todd's initial budget, and we're paying, so when he, that the one that he gave you just, you know, before he left, he had 2 million. I found that figure. But
That's what he was targeting, I'm not sure whether we're there, but
I just like to see it in my eyes too, you know. Not that I certainly believe him, but Lisa was saying today, remember this, she says, this is new to her, and she says, where does that show up? I said, oh, that's a good question, why it doesn't show up? My guess is it's gonna be in the audit. And if you look at those audits, it's probably one line somewhere in that book, and I'll get some help tomorrow. But based upon that, my guess is that Todd knew pretty well what he had there.
So basically, we're looking at total revenues of about 1.66.
I would say, well, that's with 260,000 of undesignated money there. No, that's not true.
No, I think it is.
No, that's not true.
No, that does have, that includes that, undesignated
Designated
one.
fund balance.
yeah, it includes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same amount that we put in last year.
Every year.
You're looking at income roughly of $1,661,942, and expenses approximately $7,856,471. Which if I pump these numbers incorrectly, which I might not have because I've been doing it as we've been going along, and then we're looking at about a 7.9% increase in the deficit that we got covered. Which would give us would give us a mill rate this year of somewhere around 15.53. You need a minimum mill rate, I think, of 15.39 in order to cover the deficit between the income and the expenses. And last year, looked like there was about 0.13 pumped in addition for a bit of a buffer. Like I say, these figures might not be right to the money, but I think they're a
Ballpark, yeah.
pretty good ballpark.
We don't know yet what we have in additional revenue for construction. We don't have that from,
I'm sorry, Velma, this includes an estimate
Oh, it does, an
from
estimate?
of about $3 million on the valuation for this
Really?
year, and that is pumped in.
That's school and everything, Joe?
That is the RSU, that doesn't include any of the new building expenses, but
Right.
it includes the.
Regular assessment, right?
Includes the regular assessment that we got off Jack last week.
The beauty is we have an interim town manager we can blame it on, so.
yeah,
You know, I've gone through this budget, I'm getting, so I understand it a little bit, obviously. You know, I mean, I've certainly come a long way from the day I walked in here, and so has Lisa, and not a lot of wiggle room in this thing. I mean, you got the salary issue, but if you start going through there and saying, well, we'll take this out, take that out, good luck, because all you're gonna do is, you know, with the exception of your reserves, you know, that's a history. you know, but as far as those lines that I presented to you, you know,
What's the increase from last year?
As a percentage?
What would we have to make up to keep it a flat?
Keep it flat, it looks like we're gonna make up 6,194,529. Last year, we were looking at 5,738,618. Now, I gotta admit, I'm pretty confused on this whole fire department personnel budget, so there might be some discrepancies there, but I'm reasonably confident of the rest of the figures. But I might try to get a hold of Jack tomorrow and go over the fire department part of it, because,
Yeah.
one thing that would be a real big help in doing this budgeting would be if, when these figures come in, they had an account number on them, or at least I would find it a big help. Because you can take that fire department budget and then trying to reconcile those figures with what we had last year, you know, like from the runoffs that Todd used to give us, you can tear your hair out trying to figure out what you're trying to compare.
well, it's interesting because we actually were talking about that and your budget format's been somewhat general. That's okay, I mean, I'm not, you know, but I'm gonna guess that you're due for an overhaul in your format. Jack and I were talking about it, Jack Chris and I were talking about it as well, and that, I'd be surprised if a new town manager doesn't present you considerable more detail. I think you've been hampered this year with personnel, you know, new personnel, et cetera, et cetera. I'm pretty happy with, you know, the work that we've done, but I'm not happy with the format for necessarily the presentation and the data of you know, that helps you make decisions. But you're right, but it wasn't the year to change it by any way, shape, or form.
Can the program handle it, Jack? Like that trio program?
Yeah, it sure can. Yep, it can.
So with that said, how about the computer thing? Did you get any answers on computer purchase or fix or smash?
No, forgot to call.
What did we give last year for raises?
Sorry,
Our
no.
raises last year.
3%.
They did give 3? But we had been, I think, what, a couple of years before that, we were,
I think it was 3 years.
they got nothing? Or they stayed flat?
3% last year, and I think it was 3% the year before, wasn't it? Hasn't it been 2 years in a row that they've got 3%?
The school's the big hit, right? That's gotta be our biggest.
Oh, that's always been.
Yeah.
It's a big, yeah, municipal.
That's what we
budget.
have.
Our small for this year is, you know, 4,309,000.
Well, our portion, we got almost a 4% increase there, right? 3 point something?
Yeah, the increase there was 4.4%.
I think blaming it on the interim town manager is fine.
Yeah.
Hey, all I can say is we've done the best we can, and it has been a little bit of a struggle getting dumped into it at this time period, but at the same time, we've done fairly well, you know, into what we could make, and there hasn't been a history of team building budget either. It's been a single function. And sometimes it's better to do it with more than one, you know, one person, so that you get better input. If you could do this at your desk all by yourself, or you can do it, you know, in a more group setting with people giving input. I still have some holes to fill in it, some things to do for Thursday night.
For Thursday, are you gonna be providing us
Gonna try.
a full,
Yeah, everything all put together and stapled
yeah,
is what my goal is. Because we're gonna lose Lisa right off the bat, number one, and, problem is, I only got 2 days this week, because I had to be gone Wednesday. It is what it is. We'll do it, yeah.
Were we able to find anyone, temp services or anyone to help with Lisa's job?
We do, we have found somebody that can, we had a staff meeting with, and we've got some of the basic functions covered. So we're okay there won't be any crises. We got someone that can reconcile the books, and we have someone that can likely enter this budget. And we met Friday night with that individual.
so the person is familiar with the Trio system?
Not Munis,
Yes.
but looked at Trio and said, you know, that I can do some of this, which is fine. We'll have some coverage. Also, remember, I plan to hook Lisa up at home. I just didn't want to count on that, as you know,
Yeah.
because that's great ambition, but
So the plan for Thursday is to present us with the final
Yeah.
budget and what the effect is gonna be on the.
yeah, hopefully I can tie Beth into this, but, you know.
And we're meeting in,
The rec room.
If we have to meet after that, I think as long as we get enough of this from
It's all the way
Lisa,
down at the other.
we'll be all right. Because what I needed Lisa to do was present the document, right, you know. We can change the document, we can adjust the document, but I wanted to get, the urgency was to grab Lisa time now. And then if we have to change something, that's easier, but entering it and crafting it is hard to do if you haven't done it.
no,
14.6, I think 14.6 is.
What'd you say for the mill rate?
14.5? So it's going up a full.
Yeah, the mill rate right now is 14.5, and just to cover the deficit, I'm calculating 15.39. If we put a little buffer in on that, which evidently happened last year, I think it looks more like 15.53.
That's normally called an overlay, I think,
Is it?
right? Am I right, Tom?
And-
Dig in.
And
Yeah, I mean, I'm going back, you know,
the school is not in that, or it is?
School is in.
It is in that, okay, all right.
Yeah, the biggest possible error in this will be in the fire department payroll end of it. Because frankly, I'm so goddamn confused as to who will pay what in that fire department, that I don't have any real confidence in those figures.
we can help out that, that's,
Okay.
that shouldn't be that confusing, so.
Just wondering, with Thursday's meeting and having a full review of the budget presented all in one document, do we want to have presentation on a 0%, 1%, 2%, 3% increase for payroll?
Yeah,
If we're looking at, having a column for,
John provided us.
yeah, that needs a little work.
Those,
Yeah, I mean, the concept's fine, but I showed it to Lisa and, it just needs to have updated stuff in it.
I'm just thinking if, you know, we're getting the budget from Jack here, if we could have him provide a 0123 for payroll increase, that would give us something to look at.
We could try to do that, in the time that we have. If we don't, we can still have,
We still have time.
we can still get the document to you, and then we can adjust it, you know, later. I just don't wanna make promises that may not be able to keep, because that's only 2 days from now.
What time are we meeting on Thursday?
7 o'clock.
Yeah, because that reduction would be not just in payroll, it would be in the FICA and those lines
Yeah, we-
also.
Right.
and there's, Lisa's gonna be out tomorrow for half a day, I think, so.
If we had the figures for 1, 2, and 3%, it would be too time consuming to go into this spreadsheet and start making changes for like payroll, like, you know, employment taxes. But if we knew what the total difference was, I could put a one-time item in this. Let's say if 1% came out $20,000 less than 2%, we can make a one-time $20,000 adjustment to see what the effect is on the mill rate. And that can be done, you know, just by making one entry. It would at least, you know, give us an idea of what we're looking at, you know, for a total mill rate for each scenario.
I'm gonna guess that Thursday won't be our last meeting, but it will be, at least we'll have everything kind of laid out for you, and then we may have to do some fine tuning, but.
When's the book, when's it have to be ready for the book?
It's going to tell me, but,
Sometime, mid-May sometime.
yeah,
Is that what it is?
yeah, the crisis isn't the existing calendar, the crisis is staff. That's why we went into carry that mode.
The book is usually ready for, usually around Memorial Day. They'll have, the book will be out around Memorial Day.
We're good.
Yeah, and then we've got to make sure we get out all the warrants and get everything signed to make our time frame for town meeting.
Okay.
All right. Any other business that anyone wants to bring up? Hearing none.
So moved.
You guys hear the rain?
Yeah, oh my word, I have an umbrella in the car.
Motion to adjourn.
Give me
Motion to
$5 to
adjourn.
go get it.
Yeah.
Do I hear a second on that?
That's great.
All those in favor of adjourning for this evening? 8:43. So moved. Thank you very much, everyone.
Hey, Tom?
Girls home, or they have to,
Oh, no, they're home because Hannah's got us this week
Oh, she
because
did?
we're redoing Beth's room.
yeah.
I mean, Bree's room.
Read that.
Blind leading the blind, right?
Oh, sure, I guess I can do that.
Well,
It needs to get picked apart.
Someone said you turned those in?
Oh, yeah.
I scrolled into a freaking spreadsheet.
I would be happy if I could give you more horizontal data, you know, lines and things.
Yeah.
And-
Phil, there's also a meeting Thursday night besides us.
I mean, think of,
I
I'd hate to
think the
even
planning board's here
see
also
the dollar amount,
Thursday night,
but
so you might be able to get
the accuracy that you found this year
Yeah, I'll do that. What is
in
it?
comparison to last year, you know what I mean? I bet it's a staggering number.
Is there any?
Stuff that was guessed and,
Oh, is it like my sister Patty, she found.
I think I had
No,
to
I can
dig
tell you
more
when they
because
built this
I
wall,
didn't have
she
the
said,
confidence.
it's going newspaper, it's out of the
You know what I mean?
wall,
I
it's
just-
on the newspaper.
You know, I didn't really dare to do it, you know.
Well, there, save that.
We'll get there.
Someday I'll be famous, I'll be working.
Yeah, there you go.
I was gonna have it in color.
Yeah.